You are listening to the global network of podcasters dedicated to the pharmacy profession. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
Outcomes is a leading provider of integrated pharmacy workflow and patient engagement solutions, serving pharmacies, patients, payers, and pharmaceutical companies. By combining advanced technology with strong clinical relationships, Outcomes connects a nationwide healthcare network of more than 48,000 active pharmacies, delivering access and quality care to over 130 million patients. This series highlights real pharmacists who have successfully leveraged the Outcomes Suite solutions to transform their businesses. Through these tools, they've discovered new ways to grow revenue by offering clinical services, gained actionable insights into the health of their operations, and optimized workflows for maximum efficiency. The impact goes beyond financial performance. Pharmacies are saving time, reducing administrative burdens, and alleviating staff burnout. By embracing Outcomes, these pharmacists are not only improving patient care, but also creating sustainable, profitable practices in an increasingly complex healthcare environment. Their stories demonstrate how innovation and connectivity can empower pharmacies to thrive today and prepare for the future.
Hey, welcome to a special three-part series where we're diving into some stories, some helpful discussions with pharmacy operators from the team at Outcomes. I want to say thank you to Outcomes for much of what you're doing, not only in pharmacy, but for us as a publication. We were able to partner with Outcomes at several conferences, including the Syncora Thought Spot event. It was so much fun meeting so many people there. I have a special friend that I've known for several years, and he has been an inspiration to me as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is it's a hard ship to be on. You get tossed about in the waters of business and what happens. From Spruce Mountain Pharmacy, Steve Maki, it's so good to see you.
Todd, great to see you. Glad to be on the podcast with you today.
All right, so Spruce Mountain Pharmacy. Talk to us about the organization. Let's talk about, you're a pharmacy student, you're going through pharmacy school. What did you think you wanted to do, and then how in the world did you become a pharmacy owner?
We could be here for a whole part on that just to discuss that.
Get ready for a 24-hour podcast.
Exactly. Sit down, grab a cup of coffee, put your feet up and listen to the enjoyment of my story to become an entrepreneur. I was actually a University of Rhode Island grad. We were in business administration class, and our professor, Dr. Taubman, was talking about independent pharmacies, the future, and he actually used the word extinction back in the early 90s, that independent pharmacy was not going to survive the changes that were coming at us. Which kind of bummed me out, because as a student of pharmacy, that was the community pharmacy environment I was brought up in. I wasn't a hospital pharmacist. I wasn't clinical. I loved being community pharmacy, and that's where I wanted to be. So that kind of took me back for a minute going, wow, if that's going to be the case, then where am I going to be and what am I going to do? So fast forward to graduation, I end up working for a couple of the bigger chains, regional chains. But the smoldering thought was always in the back of my mind, am I going to do this? Am I going to open the independent pharmacy? Do I have what it takes? So fortunately for me, I did have the ability to work for some of the bigger chains. So I got a chance to develop my skill set. How do I manage workflow? How do I hire the right people? How do I build a team? How do I utilize technology to make my pharmacy work efficiently, work smarter, not harder? So lo and behold, we got out. My lovely wife had a epiphany for me at one point in time, because I've been talking about the independent pharmacy idea. She said, you're either going to do this or you're not. I don't care which way you go, but you've got to do this, because you'll always be wondering, should I have, could I have, would I have? And that was the inspiration I needed. I started moving my mindset to, what does it take to open a pharmacy? How do I get open to a pharmacy? And then, as any entrepreneur, you're going to have some stumbles, you're going to have some slips, you're going to have some falls. And eventually, Spruce Mountain Pharmacy came alive in 2009. At that point in time, as I was starting to build this, we didn't have a location, we didn't have a P&L sheet, we didn't have loans. All of these thoughts that went screaming through my head as an entrepreneur is, how do you do this? One small step at a time. And I did, and I had some mentors that had done it before me. I had the ability to lean into people, to talk to people, and I had a community that was really invested in an independent pharmacy coming back into the J community. So I had a lot of community involvement, a lot of community support from my friends, my family. And then I was able to start slowly pulling pieces together to get the doors open. And in 2009, Spruce Mountain Pharmacy opened its doors.
16 years later, here we are. That's amazing. And that's the year that we started the Pharmacy Podcast. It was the first in the entire profession of pharmacy. And 16 years later, I'm talking to people like you that are leveraging technology, the advocacy, and the profession that's in your heart, Steve. It means that's why I like that you're in my network. I can reach out to you and say, hey, what's happening in Maine? What's going on with several sectors of pharmacy? How's that impacting patient care? What about payment? Talk to us a little bit about advocacy, of how important that is, that you're giving back to your state, but also you do give back to the nation too. But let's focus in on what you're doing in your state.
From a standpoint of advocacy, it's Rhonda Hauser from NCPHN's at best. Get into politics or get out of pharmacy. You've got to be involved in the politics. We don't like to do it. We love doing what we do as pharmacists. There are certain hats we don't like to wear, but we have to wear. And that's the most important point. Inviting your local legislators. I had my local state senator into my pharmacy for 2 hours while she was serving her term. And we asked questions, we dialogued, we talked about medication therapy management, we talked about CMRs, we talked about PBMs, we talked about serving the community to the best of our ability. What does it take to develop talent? What does it take to find quality candidates and help develop the job pool, from adult education classes all the way to high school students? What can we do to help promote the business of pharmacy, the trades, whatever the situation is? What can we do to help better the situation, to be able to make sure that we have quality employees working in our pharmacies? In fact, I've actually partnered with our local high school, Spruce Mountain High School. Spruce Mountain Pharmacy was first, and then Spruce Mountain High School came along when the local towns merged. So just little sidelight there. And I've actually had a couple of students come through as co-ops. So part of their senior year, they're working for me during their school hours, learning and developing an appreciation for pharmacy. So that way, when they go to pharmacy school in the fall, they actually had a better idea. And we've successfully seen two of those students go through to completion and are now pharmacists in the profession. So it's really a cool opportunity to see, grow, develop, nurture that next generation of pharmacy students, and to advocate for the profession, and to kind of give them the guidance of the mentors that I had. I can be the mentors to them as they go forward and they enter their professional career.
Steve, you and I can share a little bit of this in the demographic that we're in, the age that we're in together, where we've seen our business before the internet, for God's sakes. I'm making me feel like an old man. But now the evolution of technology, the impact of pharmacy, it's accelerating faster right now. I've been in this for 21 years. It's accelerating right now faster than it ever has been accelerating with how to leverage data. You have to trust the technology and the platforms that you're using to put your business on top of, so that you can execute and make the right decisions based on the data that you're leveraging, based on the reporting that you're leveraging. What is that infrastructure? What system did you pick to to move forward and to grow your business through? And what's most unique about that system? Computer RX, for example. I mean, that's been your system for a while, and the organization's been around, well known, well trusted, has been the backbone of independent community pharmacy for years in a technology space. But I want to hear it from your perspective.
I think backbone is the exact perfect word to use for your pharmacy management system. I've been a Computer RX user, like you said, for a long time. I'm trying to remember how long it's been. It's got to be at least 13, if not 14 years at this point in time. I did start off with another software vendor before I came over to Computer RX. When you start a business, you don't know what you don't know until you realize you don't know it. And the first system we brought in here, we thought was going to be a good fit for us. We thought it was going to be dynamic and robust, and ended up falling flat. Computer RX was exactly what I was hoped it was going to be when I brought it in and when I opened my pharmacy. It is the backbone. You've got to choose your pharmacy software platform because everything else circles around that, from developing your technicians to be able to do data entry, to be able to do inventory ordering, MTM, MedSync, everything links up to how well that system works. So I'm very fortunate to be able to be a Computer RX user and to be able to have the different levels of reporting data, ease of use. It's a really good system for us to work with, and I've had success with it. Let's face facts, as data becomes more and more prevalent in every one of our lives, from pharmacist to technician to bookkeeper, information is the new currency. The more you control your data, the more you know about your data, the more you can figure out how to use your data to your advantage. It's going to make your life easier. It's going to make you more efficient and more effective. Have I misstepped during this whole process? It's growing. As you said, we're growing by leaps and bounds. And it seems like that 10-year cycle of seeing technology change and push forward, it seems like it's about every 10 seconds. So there's definitely a lot of change going on in the environment. But being able to have a partnership with Computer RX Outcomes to be able to allow my team to be able to be integrated, to be able to pull data, to be able to make informed decisions based on data analysis makes us smarter and more efficient.
There's a profitability side of this too, and it has to be there with the challenges that we're getting beat up of reimbursement and how PBMs are just extracting the majority of the revenue, it feels like, and leaving pharmacies to dry up and pharmacy deserts to kind of consume. One of the things that Spruce Mountain Pharmacy has done that links back to the systems that you rely on is the diversification of the services that you're offering your community. So not only is it the prescription services and medication management, but you're leaning into compounding, and you're leaning into assisted living and maybe a little bit of long-term care. But talk to us about the diversification of the business and how you're evolving it, and how that backbone, that Computer RX system is part of that.
Yep. Certainly. As over the 10 years when the PBMs started to do the DIR fees, it didn't take long for me to realize that there was going to be a bigger and bigger growth of extraction of my profitability, because there was no check and balance to how the DIR fees were being managed. There was no check and balance on the PBMs. That alone raised enough red flags to me, saying that counting by fives, putting medication in vials, wasn't going to be where pharmacy was going to be 10, 15, 20 years down the road. My goal as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, is to put that hat on, try and see into the future, grab the crystal ball and say, where do I need to position the pharmacy so that as we go forward, we'll be able to be in a position where we're not reliant upon PBM structure, and we're not reliant on reimbursements that the PBMs are going to continue to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until they can't get anything more out of it. So Computer RX has been a great partner for us. We partnered with RxSafe to bring in an LTC at home component to our pharmacy. So now RxSafe, Computer Rx, I've got now a good solid foundation for compliance medication that works with my LTC at home companionship to be able to make sure that we're helping our patients be able to stay at home, live more productively at home without having to use the nursing home coverage. We've also expanded our vaccine services to continue to grow and move into that area from where we were just doing flu 10 years ago. Now we've expanded. Obviously the COVID-19 vaccine race has definitely generated a lot more interest in what pharmacies can do and how we vaccinate. And a lot of my community providers have leaned into us to be that source for them to be able to send their vaccine patients that are eligible for certain vaccines. And we're actually now doing the data mining with Computer Rx to pull out our patients that have fallen through the cracks that may have missed some vaccines. We'll add that to the compounding side. Once again, Computer Rx has a compounding component built into their system that allows us to be flexible with our compounding rooms to be able to keep everything in-house, so to speak, without necessarily having a second software in the system that my technician and my staff have to figure out how to use and operate to be successful at making our compounds. So it's a multi-tiered level of how we operate in here, just to try and help diversify the revenue stream and to continue to build the pharmacy to move forward without having to be solely reliant on the prescription side of things. That's still a big part of what we do here, because that's what people still see pharmacy being, especially in my community. But then to be able to kind of grow into clinical services, and that will be the next frontier that we move into and push forward into.
So let's talk about revenue for a second, because as a company, as pharmacy, we have to be paying attention where we're going to pick up some of the revenue that we've lost based on some of the things that are happening at the reimbursement PBM level. But bigger than that, your clients, your patients that are chronic disease sufferers or going through something, sometimes the physician either isn't accessible or isn't necessary, to follow up on something where maybe it's tied into medication management or ancillary services that surround that patient. So what about the future of pharmacists dialing into a clinical space, digging down into disease state management and the possibility of revenue, more revenue coming from that? Talk to us about that.
I think that's going to be the new frontier for pharmacy. I still think prescription dispensing will still be a big part of what we do as the pharmacy, but having that level of clinical services. As I talk to my friends over on the primary care side and other disciplines in the medical side, the prescription side of writing things, they're under the same pressures we are. There's limited resources, diversity of help, not having, access to primary care providers. The pharmacy can step in to do that. And traditionally, that's kind of been a turf war between us and the other medical disciplines. But I think we need to be brave, we need to be bold, and we need to be able to show that we can help lift the burden upon all of the healthcare providers to say, hey, pharmacists are still the most accessible healthcare provider we have. Getting provider status in all of our states is important, and then be able to figure out how to utilize that ability to provide quality and quantity of healthcare to our patients, once again, to help lift the load for all of our medical professionals that are trying to provide good care for our patients. And I think we need to look at it as a team's approach and work together to develop that. It's a little pie in the sky, I know, but I think those are words that I'm hearing resonating. And I'm hoping that from the provider side that they're going to see that that's a benefit that they can lean into, kind of like how we've leaned into and stepped into the vaccine role. We absolutely have roles in clinical disease state management, diabetes education, and so on, where we really can make big headways into providing quality care for our patients and improving patient outcomes.
Leaning in. I like that word because I want to know about leaning into your technology infrastructure, your pharmacy management system, Computer RX, to do things to take you to that next level. So what could you not live without? Like, what's a function? There's a component in that system that's really helping you to grow your business.
It comes back to what we just talked about a little while ago, talking about the data and the analytics. How do I mine out my vaccine patients that may have slipped through the cracks, that haven't gotten their shingle shot, haven't gotten their RSV shot? How do we mine our data to help patients get better outcomes? How do we mine information that's coming to us in the form of e-scripts with lab values and expanding our care level to be able to say, hey, we're seeing the lab values of a diabetic patient at 9.5. Wait a minute, if goal is going to be 6, what can we do to step in to guide that patient back into? Can we provide diabetes education? Can we give feedback on dosing? Is there some sort of partnership and collaborative practice that we can form with our providers to help, get a better outcome for our diabetic patients? So being able to use the data that Computer RX can generate for me allows me the ability to be more efficient as a provider, to look more clinically at my patients, to try and say, we have an opportunity here for a better outcome for this patient. Let's work collaboratively with a provider to be able to do that for our patients.
All right. I tell you what, this has been a great catch up and conversation with you, Steve. Missed talking to you, so really appreciate that you got time to come on the 3-part series here with Outcomes. Just a shout out to our listeners. You're curious about systems, you're curious about growing your clinical business, you're curious about things that you would really like to dig into. Maybe that's not happening right now with the systems that you're tagged into. You should reach out to the Outcomes team and just ask a lot of questions. Ask, hey, where are you going with combining multiple parts of my business from one system so I don't have a bunch of different little systems you're doing? How are you leveraging AI in the future of data analytics and making sense of where I need to be paying attention to more outcomes for revenue, not just outcomes for clinical? That word fits almost everything, Steve, because we rely on that too, with outcomes of continuing education and using podcasting as news sources. And so this has been so much fun to talk with you. Really appreciate your time, Steve.
You are welcome, Todd. Anytime. I love jumping in and being able to help and expand the knowledge of pharmacy and advocate for pharmacy wherever I can. Steve
Maki, Spruce Mountain Pharmacy. Good to talk to you. Hey, for more information, check it out. Outcomes.com. Once again, that's outcomes.com. Thanks for listening to this 3-part series from Outcomes.